Hey guys, this is Sundown Rider here, and this is going to be my chapter review to One Piece chapter 840, Iron Mask. I was about to say Iron Mask Duval, because Iron Mask is the epithet or the title for Duval, the character we've seen who's supposed to look like Sanji and was on Sanji's Wanted chapter for such a long time. So in this chapter, we later find out that there is a slight resemblance to Duval, which is quite funny if you kind of got it. So yeah, the cover page is of Kuma, Beppo, Chopper, Kumachi. Is it Kumashi? I think it is. I don't know. Is it Kumashi? Yeah, Kumashi and the hiking bear eating honey like Winnie the Pooh. So it's just like a little homage to Winnie the Pooh for some reason. A fan requested it or something. Yeah, so we go straight into the chapter where Yonji talks about the clones, where all the Germa 66 soldiers are in vials and stuff. And he says they're immersed in a culture fluid, so they are clones. And he says that humans can be manufactured. So Germa is renowned as the kingdom of science. We've already been told this, but we didn't know that Judge was a brilliant scientist back in the day. He was a member of a foreign lawless research team. Now, the lawless part suggested something like, were they undercover? Were they underground? What were they doing? That they had to be a lawless research team, or was it just simply because they weren't part of the world government? But this research team was alongside Vegapunk. Judge was working alongside Vegapunk. So a lot of people speculated last chapter that when they saw these clones and all these vials and this heavy machinery that the Germa 66 kingdom was using, that Vegapunk had something to do with it. And I thought, every piece of machinery doesn't have to have something to do with Vegapunk. But it turns out people were right. It does have something to do with Vegapunk because it's part of his research, but he didn't design it. So Vegapunk and Judge were making high-tech weaponry back in the day. So before the siblings, before the Ichiji, Niji and all them guys were born, or even before they were a glint in their father's eye, Vegapunk and Judge figured out the blueprints to life, or creating life, and they named this the lineage factor. So it's the blueprints for creating life. The world government then caught wind of this and arrested Vegapunk. Now Vegapunk always seems to be getting arrested for his research and for the research of his peers and his allies, his friends, whatever, his colleagues, and he's always getting arrested for working alongside them. And they never seem to get arrested with him. It's always Vegapunk that's getting arrested, even though it seems to be him that was like a major contributor to this piece of research. So Vegapunk gets arrested, and the rest of the science team were left to go their own ways. So Judge did one out of that area, and he carried on his studies with cloning and gene mutation, and this led to the machinery and Germa 66. So this machine where all the Germa 66 men are born, and they're clones of a selected few soldiers. So there must be a couple, or like 3, 4, maybe about 10 soldiers maybe, who are higher in terms of aptitude and ability than the rest, and these soldiers are the ones who are cloned. So they're called the clone pawns. Okay, so the soldiers themselves aren't actually aware that they're clones. Now, what would happen if they were made to be aware? Would they go apeshit? Would they realize that, my life isn't really mine? I gotta go and rebel against Judge and shit. So would they actually go ape and rebel against Judge if they found out? That might be something for Sanji to think about. It seems like a good idea. So Yonji then talks about how nations are jealous of their programmable soldiers, or how they're jealous of how they can manufacture soldiers and then program them into these soldiers that don't fear death and look death straight in the eye, and that if one of their soldiers should lose their lives, they can be replaced relatively easily. It takes 5 years to produce a 20-year-old soldier, which is pretty chilling. I mean, like 5 years to produce a 20-year-old soldier in terms of body, mind, soul, everything. I mean, like they have 20 years of life that they remember, or they seem to remember, associated with their 5 years of production. So Sanji's heard enough. He says that Yonji's making him sick, because it is kind of sickening. They're manufacturing soldiers just to die. And he sits down for a smoke, and Ichiji and Niji suddenly appear out of nowhere. So they said that they then say, Ichiji and Niji, they say that when they heard that Sanji had become a pirate, his whole family had hoped that this would mean that he'd get a little bit tougher, he'd get a little bit stronger, and that maybe this wasn't such a bad thing. So maybe he would mature a little bit. So they then say, obviously, that they were wrong. He hasn't matured at all. He hasn't gotten stronger at all. Whereas we know that Sanji's a beast. He's part of the monster trio. So Sanji sees Niji, and we knew this was going to happen, but he sees Niji and instantly goes ape. He kicks him straight in the face, and I was like, yes, take him out right now. Yes. So Yanji's shocked. Ichiji's calm and collected. He's just like, yeah, this is cool. And Niji he's on the floor now, and he just seems to crack his jaw and his head back into place. And we've seen this before when Yanji got his head hammered back into shape. So Ichiji then tells Sanji, as he's going in to attack Niji again, he tells him to tread lightly, otherwise Zeph will be in danger. So Sanji hesitates, and we knew this was going to happen. They were always going to use these underhanded techniques to stop Sanji from attacking any of the siblings. So Niji then activates stealth and he disappears. So the other siblings, as well as having been genetically modified, there must be something else going on here. They must have been physically modified as well, not just genetically. Obviously, that plays a part in their physical adaptations later on, but they must have been physically modified in terms of there must be some sort of robotics going on within these guys for them to activate stuff like this, because they don't seem to have devil fruits. So he activates stealth and he disappears, which is why I was so shocked. The other siblings have definitely been modified, I gotta say that. So Niji pops up behind Sanji and says he didn't expect Sanji to swing that way because Sanji was annoyed about Cosette. Now I was like, what? You're shocked that Sanji's straight, whereas Yanji's a pervert, and we assume that Ichiji and Niji are going to be perverts? What? So he dares Sanji to fight back. This is Niji. He's daring Sanji to fight back, saying that all the blood spilled in East Blue will be on his hands if he does. So basically he's saying you can't fight back. So he hits Sanji with a move called Henry Needle or Henri Needle. I'm not sure if it's French. And it's basically a wicked electric knee. And it hits Sanji straight in the back. His stomach comes out in like a really, really weird and nasty angle. And it looks like it hurts Sanji quite a lot. And that's followed up by an electrical punch. So Niji then says, if I knew how much Cosette meant to you, I would have beat her everywhere but her face, and I would have beat her black and blue everywhere but her face. And I thought, whoa, this guy is scum. He needs to get put down. But then Ichiji says, we can make her a part of your personal staff if you don't mind the company of a cripple. And I was like, what? And then the last bit got me. Have they crippled Cosette? Has she been crippled because of Niji? And Niji also seems to own the fact that he's the one that actually destroyed Cosette. So it couldn't have been Reiju, because Niji seems to be fine with the fact that it was him. So Sanji looks hurt, but he's not out. Now Niji looks unharmed. I was shocked about that, because he took a relatively strong kick to the face. So Ichiji welcomes Sanji once again back to his Vince Smoke family, and says he can remind Sanji of the hierarchy in this house anytime, saying that if Sanji basically steps up, he'll take him out. So I think Sanji can take up to, in terms of all his siblings, he can take out all of his siblings apart from Ichiji, and maybe even Ichiji, but not beyond. Like Ichiji and Sanji would be an awesome fight, but they always threaten him with the lives of others, and they never allow him to fight full tilt. They always blackmail him into fighting less than he can, fighting with less ability than we know he possesses. So Ichiji then tells Sanji he's the dud, the mishap, and the failure. So we all had this theory. I mean, Roger's base, and I think Sawyer said it as well, that Sanji is the dud of the family. He's the failure, the mishap. So we go to a Sanji flashback. Sanji's face is just like, I think he sheds a single tear, just the one tear, because he's a guy, you can't shed more than one tear. So we go to a Sanji flashback where Judge tells his kids they are his greatest creations. So just confirming that they are his creations through genetic engineering. So they're the result of scientific breakthroughs in genetic engineering. Human limits won't apply to them. So he then says that they will all stand at the head of an army. So that's his dream. He wants his kids to stand at the head of an army. I'm not sure if that's his final dream, but that's part of it. So they're going to stand at the pinnacle of his army, and he says they've been blessed with limitless potential through this genetic engineering, and all that's left is for them to train. So we get a training montage where Sanji is portrayed as the weakest, the slowest, and the most useless of his siblings, put honestly. The scientists are evaluating the siblings every training session. They're jumping like from a castle rampart. Sanji's too chicken to do it, because if he's obviously the most human of the siblings, he's going to break his legs jumping from a rampart. So in sprints, he's the slowest. In hurdling these fiery beams, he can't do it. Swimming in the ocean, he drowns. Education, they all seem to be on par. Sanji just seems to be a little bit more friendly with the animals, and when Yanji attacks the animals, Sanji gets really, really vexed. So his brothers are annoyed by his weakness, but let me point out once again, Reiju does not seem to be annoyed or anything by his weakness. If anything, she seems to be more and more concerned as a child. So Sanji and Niji have a fight with Shinai, which are those kendo wooden swords you get. in front of some Germa soldiers. So Sanji attacks Niji only for his sword to break, only for his shinai to break, break on Niji's head, which once again confirms that, because no matter what density bone you have, even if he had an adult density bone at that level, he shouldn't be breaking a shinai just because someone smashed it against his head. There's got to be something more to Niji and his other siblings. So Sanji then gets wrecked. Reiju is shocked and concerned, but then quickly laughs it off with her siblings. And I was like, that's a really weird showing of how her feelings are towards Sanji. It's really weird. I didn't get it at first until I read it back. So the scientists continue to watch, and when feeding back to Judge, the scientists tell him that Sanji is inferior to his brothers. His brothers have started to form their outer skeletons. Now this is the thing that must be why they're so hard. It must be why the shinai broke and everything, why Sanji punched them and there was a clanging sound. And their bodies have matured into the level of adult men in terms of agility and strength. So the scientists then say that Sanji is a failure, a complete failure. All four of the brothers were successfully modified at birth, but Sanji somehow turned out to be a regular human. So Judge is vexed. He's completely annoyed. Sanji's feeding a rat. Judge walks in saying, "Royals must never serve." So he says Sanji's mother has passed away, and there is no merit following the legacy of the dead. So this to me says that Sanji's mom must have been pretty kind. If Sanji's following the legacy of the dead, he's feeding a rat, he's serving as a royal. She must have been like the really kind aspect of this family, the Reiju type, but not cowardly. So he then tells Sanji he must train 1,000 times harder than his siblings because of his lack of talent. So being a failure is not an option to Sanji. He throws the rat and Sanji's food through a window and just straight up kills the rat, I assume. So Sanji's crying, and then we see Sanji in the next training session being beaten in training. Reiju patches him up, saying that she has to laugh with the others. She's kind of apologetic. She's saying, "I have to laugh with the others, otherwise I'd get bullied too." So is she good or not? I think she's actually good, because there's too many things where I said she was suspicious in her character, but what was suspicious was how she was acting. So she always seems to have concern for Sanji, and she seems to really, really like him, but she can't betray her family in front of them, but she'll go behind the scenes and help out Sanji. So Judge affirms that he affirms after that training session that Sanji is indeed a waste of space. So they then do the most horrific thing we've seen for a while. They hold a fake funeral for Sanji. Where all the Germa think it's legit, but Judge and his family know that it's not, and they're basically trying to kill off Sanji. And the Germa are crying. So would they be loyal to Sanji if they know Sanji's alive now, but would they be loyal to Sanji if they had that much feeling for him, if they had that much loyalty towards him back then? So we then see Sanji wearing an iron mask in front of a couple selected Germa soldiers and his brothers. Well, not even his brothers just assume he's dead. And he's wearing an iron mask like Duval. And his brothers seem to be carefree about the death of Sanji, which is, we knew they were evil, but this is like true scum level. So Reiju, however, puts up her normal facade of like she's smiling and everything, but then in the next panel she looks genuinely concerned. She's got a little sweat. So we then see Sanji behind bars. One of the Germa tells Sanji that his father wants to wipe the slate clean and start afresh in a world without Sanji having ever been born. Wow, that is genuinely sad times. I mean, like his father's basically saying, "You're dead to me. I don't want you to be alive in this world." So Sanji then cries and apologizes for being born a weakling. The chapter ends, and next week we're getting a chapter. Yeah. So that was a devastating chapter. Overall, I liked the chapter. We got more on Sanji's backstory, confirmation on the cloning and genetic engineering, hints as to Reiju being good, and parallels to Duval with the Iron Mask. So we also got confirmation that Sanji's mother has indeed passed away. Whether she was all of their mothers or just Sanji's mother has yet to be confirmed, but considering they don't address each other as stepbrother, I assume they all had the same mother. So his siblings definitely aren't normal humans. They have been genetically modified, but they also seem to have been physically modified with this outer skeleton they all possess, apart from Sanji. So his father also worked alongside Vegapunk. Vegapunk got arrested, but is Vegapunk a hostage of the world government, or is he a prisoner who's forced to work? Because every turn we seem to get, and every bit of information we seem to get about Vegapunk, it doesn't seem like he's working willingly for the world government. So is he a prisoner? Is he a hostage of the world government forced to work? So we also got Niji getting kicked in the face, which was awesome, but we still got no Luffy versus Cracker confirmation or continuation, and I'm a little bit salty about that again. It's just like, come on, man, I want to see Luffy again. But yeah, it was a really good chapter. 3.5 out of 5. Let me know what you guys think. I think Reiju is going to play a big part coming. She seems to be a really nice lady, and I think she's going to help Sanji out if she can. So yeah, 3.5 out of 5. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys later.